Welcome to The Explainer. You know, when you look at an investment, how do you really measure its timeline? Most of us, we just glance at the maturity date. But what if I told you that date can be incredibly misleading? Today, we're going to demystify a concept that gives us the real story, Macaulay duration.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll see why just looking at time can totally trick you. Then, we'll nail down what Macaulay duration actually is. We're going to get our hands dirty and calculate it for a couple of different investments, see how it holds up when interest rates go wild, and then wrap it all up with why this one single number is just so powerful.
All right, first up, let's really dig into the problem with time. Why is it that looking at a simple end date can lead us so far astray?
I mean, this seems like a no-brainer, right? A 100-year investment, that's got to be the definition of long-term. But, well, the answer isn't that simple, because it all comes down to when you actually get your money back.
And this slide just illustrates the whole problem perfectly. In scenario 1 on the left, you get pretty much all your money back right away. So even though it's technically a 100-year investment, your actual experience is super short-term. But on the right, you've got to wait 99 years to see that cash. The maturity date is exactly the same for both, but they feel like completely different worlds. This is the flaw we need to fix.
Okay, so if the maturity date is flawed, what's the fix? We need a better, smarter way to measure an investment's true timeline. And that solution? It's a metric called Macaulay duration. To put it simply, Macaulay duration is the weighted average time it takes to get your money back. Just think back to our 100-year example. That huge payment in month 1, it would be weighted really heavily, pulling the average time way down. It's not just about when that last payment hits your account, it's about the average time to get all the payments, weighted by how big and important they are. I absolutely love this analogy. It's the financial center of gravity, right? Imagine all your future payments laid out on a long seesaw. Duration is the exact point where you could put the fulcrum to make the whole thing balance perfectly. It's the true balancing point of your investment's timeline.
So how do we actually find the center of gravity? Let's get practical and actually calculate it. We'll use two competing investments, let's just call them A and B.
We're just going to follow a straightforward 4-step process here to find the duration for both of these investments. Pretty simple.
Okay, so take a look at the table here. We've got our two investments, A and B, and you can see they both have a 10-year maturity. But notice the key difference. Investment B starts paying you right away, in year 1. Investment A, on the other hand, makes you wait until year 3. This difference in timing is exactly what Macaulay duration is built to measure. All right, next step. We have to account for a fundamental rule of finance. Money today is worth more than money in the future. I mean, it makes sense, right? You could invest it and earn interest. So we have to calculate the present value, or PV, of each of those future payments. We basically discount those future dollars to see what they're worth in today's terms. We'll use a 10% interest rate here as our benchmark. And you can see those PV numbers are smaller than the actual cash flows. Now that we have the present value of each payment, we can figure out its importance, or its weight. Just look at investment B in year 1. That payment of about $91 makes up 17% of the total value of the investment. A bigger, earlier payment like that is naturally going to carry more weight in our calculation. And this is the key to finding that center of gravity. And here we are, the final step. It's pretty simple. We just take the timing of each payment, the year, and multiply it by the weight we just calculated. When we add all those little pieces up, boom, we get our final number, the Macaulay duration. And you can see the results right there at the bottom. For investment A, the one that pays out later, the weighted average time to get your value back is 6.03 years. But for investment B, which starts paying you earlier, the duration is shorter, 5.80 years. Now just stop and think about that for a second. Both investments have the exact same 10-year maturity date. But duration tells us the truth. Investment B is economically shorter because you get your money back faster. That right there, that's the power of this metric. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. Duration isn't some fixed, static number. It's a dynamic measure that changes with the market. And its real power is in showing us how sensitive our investment is to one of the biggest forces in all of finance, interest rates. So let's stress test our two investments. What happens to their duration if interest rates suddenly take a nosedive or shoot for the moon? First,
let's say rates fall to just 1%. All of a sudden, waiting for money in the future isn't so bad, right? Because you're not missing out on much interest today. This makes those distant payments way more valuable in today's terms. And as you can see, this increased importance of those future payments actually stretches out the duration for both investments. They become economically longer.
Now for the complete opposite, rates just skyrocket to 100%. In a world like that, getting money now is everything, because you can reinvest it at that incredible rate. Future payments, they become almost worthless in comparison. So all the weight shifts to the earliest cash flows, and as a result, the duration shrinks, dramatically. Look how investment B drops all the way down to just 1.68 years.
So, after all that, what's the big takeaway here? Why should you really care about this number?
Ultimately, Macaulay duration is so powerful because it boils two absolutely huge, critical factors down into a single, elegant number. First, the unique cash flow structure of your specific investment, and second, the current economic environment, which is represented by interest rates. What it does is it replaces a simple, static end date with a dynamic, realistic measure. It tells you the true economic timeline of your investment, and, as we just saw, it also tells you exactly how sensitive it is to changes in interest rates. So the next time you look at an investment, don't just ask, when does it mature? Ask, what's its duration? It is a simple question that is going to give you a much, much deeper understanding of both risk and time. Thanks for tuning into this explainer.